There is actually one other issue that we haven't discussed. Well, I'm sure there's many. But one of the issues we haven't discussed in regard to the game itself, either of Hex Command Mechanized or Hex Command NOVA, whatever you want to call this future setting. Because essentially, remember, it's Hex Command Mechanized, adapted for a futuristic setting using the models available from BattleTech and Cav and anybody else. Was the point. Anything in your inventory, anything you want in a science fiction realm of walking machines, crawling machines, or whatever, can be put into this. That's the idea. It was originally called Quartermaster Future Warfare. But one of the things that I wanted to bring up now is that we've not talked about both field guns, traditional field guns, well, we'll call them traditional field guns, and anti-tank guns and stuff used by the infantry. And we've not talked about APCs in so much as hovercraft are concerned. Now, I was just doing some research, and I discovered that there is a nuance of having hovercraft. I'm not entirely sure if this is true, and I know the DARPA and everybody else is working on this now, and there's reasons for it. But in our view, or at least in my view, the benefits are that, much like Johnny Quest, and I know I'm dating myself, where it was common to see a lift platform for a few infantrymen that the actual U.S. Army was working on. But it turned out to be impractical. I disagree, especially when it came to Vietnam, and I think that's what it was originally intended for. But it was originally intended as a lift platform for difficult terrain, like, for instance, marsh and such places like that. The machine itself was basically a turbofan that you were standing on. Well, okay, obviously that was silly because you can't stand on top of blades, but man, anyway, it'll suck everything into the. All right, so but the hover technology, if you want to call it repelling, if you want to call it gravity, whatever the technology is going to be, magnetic or something, or anti-magnetic, whatever, provides there's two things that it provides: the nuance or the feature of being able to go over any terrain. For instance, when we look at our table here, we're talking about water. Well, can a hover vehicle float above water, or does it need solid ground? I think anything that I guess I don't know, but we'll come to that, I suppose. But let's assume it right now it's solid ground. And when you get to the point of the marshland, and when we don't show the marshlands on here, and we will. When you show the marshlands, basically the mechs are absolutely unable to do that because they'll get stuck. Of course, every marshland has a hard bottom. We don't know how deep. It would have to be a random thing just to see how deep it is. But one thing is for certain, it's going to be mucky for any walking vehicle to negotiate. So, when it comes to carrying troops, we've talked about the fact that one feature that was not discussed in any of the movies or any of the technical readouts was the ability for a mech to carry infantry. This makes sense, doesn't it? For instance, carry a box, carry a cargo container. For instance, what if a mech had a backpack, and on that backpack, in that backpack, was infantry? Well, there you go. You've just obliterated all the need for any kind of ground-based APC. A mech is going to carry him. Now, how many can it carry? Well, look, a mech is pretty heavy. Okay, a BattleMech is pretty heavy. Imagine if it had a backpack, some kind of case, even a cage, even just handles the guys would grip onto. And they would, I know it sounds funny. I know the image is pretty darn funny, but the fact of the matter is these guys are infantrymen. Okay, there's serious business going on here. This is not a game. Yes, it's a game, but we have to think of it in real terms. Imagine if you're on a planet somewhere and you're conducting some military operation and you need to walk a distance. Well, just grab onto this mech because he's 15 feet at a stride, 30 feet at a stride, and if it's a heavy mech, 40 feet. That's a big step. All right, and how many can he carry? Well, probably quite a few. I mean, a guy weighs average 200 pounds with equipment. Okay, so maybe he can carry 8 guys, right? So back to the APCs floating around the ground, we don't know. It's a question, and that's why this is being recorded, because I don't know. It would be good to know. As you can see now, I've discovered things that I've forgotten we already had, which was hover tanks. Some of those hover tanks, you can see the skirts. Now, here's the question. Is that an air skirt, right? Or is that just a skirt and protecting the emitters underneath it? Imagine, if you will, Back to the Future's car. Those emitters that enabled it to lift and essentially fly. A little bit hard, well, still, it was a high-flying vehicle, right? We saw it exit in certain movies above the trees. That's pretty high. That's not hover tank technology. You're never going to get higher than a tree. Well, at least not that I can think of. But at any rate, so these guys have skirts. I suppose it's just a metal skirt, like flexible metal, maybe articulated kind of, metal surrounding the vehicle that contracts when the emitters are turned off and the vehicle comes to a stop and is sitting. And then there's the other question. What's it sitting on? I guess we'll have to say it has feet. Okay, so it has feet, and the feet are retracted when the emitters begin, so the vehicle starts to float, and it can't go very high. It doesn't work that way. Or we don't know if it works that way. And so how much can it carry? And here's the other nuance I was getting to. I was reading some stuff that people are talking about, and when a hover vehicle fires a kinetic weapon, there's a recoil. Yeah, right? Things you don't think about. The vehicle recoils. Boom. Okay? So you can't fire kinetic weaponry. You have to fire only energy weapons or missiles. If you fire a kinetic weapon, there's a recoil, unless it's a recoilless kinetic weapon. And when I'm saying kinetic, I mean like a shell firing with a gunpowder charge, blah, blah, blah. Okay. A railgun. Is that a kinetic weapon? Gauss rifle. Those are energy-propelled projectiles. I don't think there's a recoil on those. So we're talking about energy beams, energy pulses, Gauss rifles, which are a solid projectile of some titanium core or something of that nature, but it's Gauss. It is a electromagnetic cannon. Okay, no recoil, right? All right, so we settled that. So this video can end, essentially. Anyway, so those are the questions. And if anybody has ideas or whatever, put them in the comment section, because inquiring minds want to know and see what everybody thinks. And again, yes, we're getting ready to start the game at some point in the future. No, soon enough. We're just getting ready. As you can see, we've got now our ground vehicles out there, and we have our little anti-tank guns. Why? Because we want to see them. Do they exist in the BattleTech universe? Apparently not. They have a little portable, a vehicle-towed gun, but not enough for our interests. Yes, it's true. We want to see conventional type of, actions. And so, sorry, but that's what we want. And we want to believe that will happen in the future. It makes us, as military enthusiasts, it makes us feel happy to see things consistent with the way they are now, and when they will be in the... Well, where are we now? 2024? 2023? So you have to think of this, right? 900 years from... 900 years from now, it will become, or it'll be close to 600 years from now, it will be close to the beginning of the BattleTech era that has been recorded. Okay, that's 600 years? Can you imagine? Anyway. Okay.